This video is brought to you by my Patreon producers. If you'd like to become a Patreon producer, you can find more at patreon.com/Mason Mennenga. I'm not sure if Jesus was into golden showers, but one time an artist dipped him into a jar of urine, and it became one of the most controversial pieces of art in recent history. But why did this piece of art become so controversial? I mean, the Gospels are full of stories of Jesus' spit and blood. Piss, spit, blood. Following this Jesus guy really sounds a lot like BDSM. And by BDSM, I mean Bible discussion study meeting. There are so many times in the Gospels where people's bodies, even Jesus's, are at the center of the story. Furthermore, there are even times in the Gospels where the most taboo things about our bodies play an important role in redemption, even Jesus' dick. Yes, that's a relic that's allegedly the foreskin of Christ himself. Christianity is so freaking weird. So what is this art piece of Jesus in a jar of urine? And what can we learn from it? I'm Mason Mennenga, and today I'll be talking about the artwork of Piss Christ and why it can teach us about the sacred and the profane. Before we jump in, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications. And also, let me know what you think about the video in the comments. So when I was an infant, my parents had me baptized. I was their first child, and they were so excited for this very special moment. So they dressed me in this very fancy and expensive white dress. So as I was being baptized, the pastor was holding me, and just as he was about to dip his fingers in the water to trace the cross on my forehead, I shat my diaper. And not only did I shit my diaper, but it was a major blowout through my clothes and into my pastor's arms. Shitting into the pastor's arms not only represents my current relationship with Christianity,
I'm tired of the church.
but I also think it introduces us to this problematic idea that there are things in life that are sacred, something like baptism, and that there are things in life that are profane, something like a volcanic shit explosion. But what should we do about this problematic idea about the sacred and the profane? Well, first, let's talk about Piss Christ. In 1987, a photograph emerged from a relatively unknown artist, Andres Serrano. While on first glance, it appears to be simply a photograph of a crucifix in some orange liquid. Word got out that the liquid was actually the artist's own urine, instead of the best flavor of Gatorade. A few years after its release, the art ended up becoming the center of controversy in religion and even in politics, when several members of the United States Congress criticized that the National Endowment for the Arts had given Serrano a grant to exhibit Piss Christ. Not only was this a big deal at the time, because it was probably the first time Republicans tried to put restrictions on what a man can and cannot do with his body, but also Piss Christ gained notoriety all over the world because of the outrage of Serrano placing a figure of Jesus in a jar of his own urine, even among Christians. Despite all the rage, Serrano did not intend to offend with his image. Whew, that was rough. Because he's a Christian, Serrano actually intended to cause people to rethink the physical aspects of Jesus' death on the cross. In the Gospel of John, the author says that when Jesus was crucified, his blood poured out of him. For Serrano, it wasn't just Jesus' blood that came out of him, but also the piss and the shit. He wanted to stress the human nature of Jesus. Despite what his critics may believe, Piss Christ emerged out of a deep reverence for Jesus, not in spite of it. For many Christians, it seems that a reverence for Jesus means only acknowledging the more sacred images we have of him. Many of these sacred images of Jesus paint him not only as white, but also as otherworldly. Newsflash, Jesus was Middle Eastern, so he was very much not white. Even more, Jesus was born next to animal shit, literally. He also healed with his spit and with dirt, and his body had been badly bloodied before being crucified. Jesus was quite familiar with the profanity of shit, spit, and even blood. So the sacred images that we have of him that paint him as white and otherworldly are a mistake at best and a lie at worst. In fact, perhaps Jesus would have been more comfortable with a representation of him surrounded by piss, like in Piss Christ, than the kind of sacred images we often see of him now. These sacred images reinforce the dividing wall between the sacred and the profane. They suggest that if we are to follow Jesus, we must rid ourselves of the profane things in our life. But as I've pointed out, Jesus himself was surrounded by the profane and even used the profane to heal the world. So if we are going to break down the barrier between the sacred and the profane, then the most important thing is for us to look at the things and the people we consider most sacred, like Jesus, and to see the profanity in them. And conversely, we need to also look at the things and the people we consider most profane and see the sacredness in them. A piece of art like Piss Christ is one of the many ways we can do this. Meditating on the sacredness of your body in its most profane moments, like during sex, is another way. Or shitting in your pastor's arms while getting baptized is even another way. Regardless, by doing this, maybe you'll realize that the things and the people who we have considered defiled or outcasts are actually sacred. May we demolish the wall that divides the sacred and the profane. So now not only do you know more about my baptism than you wanted to know, but also you now know about one of the most controversial pieces of art in recent history, Piss Christ. Despite it being controversial, we can learn so much from it because it helps to tear down the wall between the sacred and the profane, and it teaches us to do the same in our own lives. With that, there's only one thing left to say.
Mr.
Serrano,
tear down this wall.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and also tell me what you thought about it in the comments. If you'd like to support more of my work, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Mason Mennenga. Also, check out my podcast, A People's Theology, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, to be in your body is to be in God.